There's been a rumor for a long time that Battlefield 2042 Hazard Zone was going to play like Escape from Tarkov, and honestly, I never really believed it. It seemed like too big of a deal. It was too big of a change for Battlefield. There was too much work. That's essentially a different game, not just a different easy mode they could add in. But as it turns out, actually, we're getting data leaks from people data mining the technical test. This seems to be true. Now, obviously, you still need to treat this as rumors, because what's in the files doesn't necessarily end up in the main game. And even if what this guy Temporeal has said is actually accurate and in the game files, all of that can change. It might be cut and all kinds of stuff. So none of this is confirmed for certain. But it's still interesting, just the idea that they would do it. Something like Escape from Tarkov or Hunt Showdown, it seems to be a hybrid of the two, could be incredibly interesting. It's something that's never really been done before. Very few games have actually done it, and it's certainly an entirely new area for Battlefield. And obviously I've got some concerns for this. Some of the decisions seem a bit hairy to me, but let's get into what we know about it and we'll go from there. Because first we saw in the Exodus trailer the kind of atmosphere they were going for. It was just one guy entering a town on its own. This was very different than Battlefield. This was our first hint that this was true. Normally it's big armies, tanks, and planes, but all of this was focused on one guy entering a battlefield on his own, and he was ambushed by one guy. And he was trying to get intel from a specific location, and this definitely seems to appear more like Hunt Showdown than it does Escape from Tarkov. For anyone that doesn't know, the way these games generally work is you enter a map and you buy gear at the start of it, and you risk this gear. If you die, you lose the gear, but your aim is to go through the map and either gather resources or gather specific objectives, and then you get rewarded for that and escape. If you escape, you get the rewards. If you die, you lose everything. Except for insurance, but we'll come to that later. Now, this actually does change how you feel about the game. In Battlefield, no one cares if they die. They'll just respawn, so there's no tension there. But if you risk something, even if it's just pixels, it does have this psychological effect. It has an impact. It adds tension to the game, and it's that tension which keeps people coming back. In fact, if you go and play Escape from Tarkov, your best days are at the start, where you have gear fear at the most. When you lose gear fear, you lose something. Now, Escape from Tarkov, they have resets to kind of bring that back. They've got quests, and once people go through the quests, a lot of people leave the game. Battlefield will need something like that. Otherwise, when you get to the end, when you get so much money, there's no risk. You can buy the best gear. What else do you really have to play for? It'll be interesting to see how they fix this, because in these kind of data files, at least, there's no kind of sign of them thinking about anything like that. But we do know that they have most of it done. Well, this is a game in itself. They already have the assets. They're just essentially putting them together, and hopefully they've got their own team working on this, because they're going to use the old maps for the multiplayer. Now, there's obviously a very different map flow needed for when you've got 128 players and two teams nuking at each other than it is one guy wandering through. And they seem to see some of these issues, and the way they've solved them, I'm a bit concerned about, because in multiplayer, they try and make places specifically for snipers, so there's big open areas. That's not great in a 1v1, where people just camp it, and if you're forced to go across it, dying to a guy off in the distance somewhere is just, it's a bit trash. Now, one of the ways they've tried to get around this is by adding things in like the robot dog or ATVs, armored transport vehicles. The fact that they think you can put ATVs in this and that'll presumably get around some of the problems of traveling, it doesn't give me that much hope, I'll be honest. Like, for me, the idea would be you don't have these open areas, you have plenty of cover, and I'd really leave vehicles out of it. Getting run over or shot by tanks or anything else, just, that's not going to feel good. But they seem to have handled that a different way as well. You see, the tension that I talked about, one of the reasons that's so high is because you only have one life, so death matters. But in this, you'll actually get to respawn, which is weird to me. One of the things they talk about are respawn beacons and deploy speed. Now, the very fact that there is deploy speed, to me, implies that you'll just keep coming back. Maybe as long as your respawn beacons are there, you can keep respawning, and that really actually removes basically all of the tension from the game. So, I'm not sure how keen I am on that. I think that's one of the key features, and by removing that, you're really just making this more of a deathmatch mode, which, it's not for me as much, but maybe it'll appeal more to other people. I mean, stuff like Escape from Tarkov is more hardcore, and so giving people respawns will probably appeal to a wider audience. But I do think you're removing one of the key draws from a mode like this if you're actually allowing people to respawn. But hey, we'll have to see how it works. Now, they're going to have AI soldiers and bosses in it, which are also presumably similar to how it works in Hunt Showdown, whereas in that, what you have to do is go around the map to collect information. That tells you where the boss is, and then you can go with the boss and escape with the loot. Now, the satellites will work similar to this, presumably. You'll get intel, that'll tell you where the satellite's coming down, then you go to the satellite and escape. And the AI soldiers and bosses will probably be bonus rewards, or maybe they'd be guarding the intel and stuff like that, and that's how you have to get around them. And another thing that removes the tension from the game is stuff like loadout insurance. The insurance works in Escape from Tarkov is you insure your gear, and if it doesn't get taken out of the map by another player, then you get it back. So obviously you lose your best gear because everyone else loots it and takes it with them, but you do get at least some back, and it really makes death less punishing, which is important in these because you don't want to be too harsh on people. But when you've got respawns and everything else, it seems a bit weird to me. Now, one of the things that they do also talk about is the currency, which would presumably be objective rewards and stuff like that. But I'm more of a gear-orientated person. I like gathering gear and storing it in a stash and just watching the stash grow more than just a number on a screen. So I'm kind of hoping that you can loot other players, as I'm just less attached to money than I am stuff overall in games. And if we take a look at the tactical upgrades, which are in the data files, all of this makes it seem a lot more run and gun. It's not, which you'd kind of expect for Battlefield. Like Warzone is far more run and gun than Apex and stuff. There's far more action. That's what makes it feel like a Call of Duty BR. In this, they definitely want to make it seem like a Battlefield version of Hunt Showdown. They've got the speed, they've got the respawns, they've got ammo increases. This literally means you're going to be fighting so many people, you're going to run out of ammo, which is quite impressive because you're never going to do that in Escape from Tarkov. You never get into that many fights. But in this, the fights could be a lot faster. It's going to be faster paced, more run and gun. It's going to be on the maps, which are designed for that kind of action. And if you get bored, you can always get into an ATV and immediately drive to the gunfighting. So there's always that there. And I think that's the key, and I think that's what's important to them. This is definitely going to be more of a Battlefield feel. I don't think it'll have the tension. I don't think losing your gear will be that important to you. I think they're going to take all of that out of the game to try and make it more action-paced. So people are going to be running around at speed, you're going to be fighting, you're going to be getting to the intel as fast as possible, cutting a path there through the enemies. Then you're going to go to the satellite, maybe take a boss out on the way, and then you're going to escape via the little bird extraction areas. Anyone that's a fan of Escape from Tarkov, this may not appeal to you because of this more action-orientated pace. That is what I take from this. That's the way I think it's going to play out. Obviously, we're not going to know, but this actually does intrigue me. Like, with Escape from Tarkov, I tend to play one wipe on, one wipe off, because it gets very samey, and so just grinding everything out again just doesn't interest me that much. But if it was action-based, if it was more of a fighting game, if there was all just get in, shoot people and get out, then I think it could be a refreshing change from the multiplayer. I've always been an objective-orientated person. I just play the objective and play to win, even in the multiplayer side. So having this fighting around specific zones, trying to get there and beat other people to it, you've not only got the risk of, well, if you respawn, that could be quite punishing. But at the same time, you really wanted to get there first. I think that's an interesting dichotomy between the two, and that could play out very well. I'm actually really interested to hear more. I want to see gameplay, I want to reveal. I hate the fact that we have to rely on these sort of data mining and leaks. I don't see this as a problem with the leakers. I don't think there's any issue with them. And Battlefield has been very harsh. The people which have been releasing footage from the technical test, look, I know it's all under an NDA. I know they shouldn't have done it. I know that was the agreement. But I think a genuine better path for the developers would have been to release footage themselves. People only want leak footage because you haven't done that. Your reveal pace is too slow. The information you've given people is too slow. And that matters with Hazard Zone. Literally, we know the name, we've seen a tornado, and that is it. People are so thirsty, so hungry for the information that they're digging through the files just to try and find anything out themselves. The developers could have cut this off. They could have led the narrative and released the information sooner. They could have shown it at its best. Instead, what we've got are just hints from the files. And who knows, maybe this is part of it. Maybe these files are in the technical preview because they want a bit of information to get out. but I hate doing it this way. I hate having to go to Twitter to find out stuff that may or may not be true, that may or may not be cut from the game. I'd rather just concrete information given by the developers in a kind of a polished form. That's what I like. That's the way I like information presented. That's the kind of marketing that I think they should have done. So, while I'm interested in Hazard Zone, the way we found out about it and everything else about the release of this, I'm not a fan of. Before this, I was a big fan of what Battlefield had done, but then there's just a huge gap where they really haven't shown us anything. And so, we've got dodgy footage, blurry images on low-spec computers, and it really doesn't show the game off at its best. If you won't give the gamers information, if you won't show your game at its best, then we see it at its worst. And honestly, I don't think Battlefield has anyone to blame for this but themselves. But for now, that's it from me. If you like the video, press like and subscribe for more videos in the future. And let me know what you think of this down below. Have you ever seen anything like Hazard Zone? Will you be playing it? Does this spark your interest? I'm interested to find out, but for now, that's it from me. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.